Hi guys, welcome to another interesting episode of Trash It. So on today's episode, we have something very important to discuss. This is something that affects the majority of women in different localities or in different communities. Today we will be talking about female genital mutilation, okay? I'm sure you already know some people on this panel. You've got Toyin over here, which she's been on this she's been on the show before, and if you watched our sex in marriage topic, Toyin scattered the whole thing, like she laid it down, okay? And then I've got my usual host, Yuri, okay? I call her the madam. And again, we've got Jude. Jude is the only man in an all-women's panel. So thank you, Jude, for joining. And of course, we've got a trashed virgin, okay? You've never seen this one before, okay? We have the pleasure of having Mrs. Olutosin Oladosu Adebowale. She's the founder of Stars of Hope Transformation Center in Ibasa, Riverside Community in Lagos. She works with women and girls only, okay? And she has been working for the past 10 years, okay, with this group of people, using various skills, like using waste materials to create beautiful products to sustain our work. I mean, Toyin is she's a very decorated person. She's done loads and loads of things. You can check her out on her Facebook page. We'll put the handle there. You can also check her out on her Instagram page, where you'll see some of the works that she has done. Okay, now the reason why we have Tosin here today is because Tosin is pertinent to the topic that we're talking about today, and the reason why is because she has gone through female genital mutilation. Okay, so what I'm going to do, I'm just going to start by defining what FGM, female genital mutilation, what it is, okay? So again, this is a layman's definition, nothing too complicated. FGM is also known as female genital cutting, okay? And it's also called female circumcision. We have the male circumcision, okay? It's the ritual cutting or the removal of all or some of the external female genitalia, okay? It's also a procedure where the female genitals are deliberately cut. The word deliberately there is very important for us to digest, okay? And it's cut or it's injured or it's changed, but there's no medical reason for this to be done, okay? So some people argue that there's a medical reason, some people argue that there isn't. Okay, so first question, the first person I'm going to go to, or the first person I'm going to go to Tosin, okay? Tosin, given that you've had this done before, so I just want you to tell us just a little bit about your experience of it. Nothing too major. Just tell us something that you've experienced with regards to FGM, okay? What your experiences were and how old you were when you had it done.
Okay. Hello, everybody. Mine was when I was young, as in then, it's always a group thing. Not that you'll be taken to a hospital, no. You'll be taken to an old man in group, maybe like 4, 5, 6 of you.
Did you say a man?
Yes, a man.
Wow, okay.
So the man will cut for everybody at the same time, and we'll go back home. And it's not just, maybe then I was very young, yeah. But about 5 years ago, I did a documentary for Wole Soyinka Center. Okay. Wole Soyinka Center for Investigative Journalism on FGM. So I was in different states in Nigeria.
Wow.
It happened when I was young, but now I saw this at Ibadan, at Babalola's place. I was there with my crew, and I saw him cut more than 6, 7 girls in my presence. So it's not that I'm talking about 40-something years ago. I was in Cross River State. It was like a month documentary that I did on Nigerian women. I saw a community where women, pregnant women, only pregnant women, are the ones that will be circumcised when they are pregnant.
Okay.
Oh. And it's a 7 days ritual.
Okay, so I mean, Tosin, just to understand what you're saying. So this, when you did this documentary, what year was this? Do you remember what year it was?
4 or 5 years ago. 4 or 5 years ago.
Because I understand that the former president, President Goodluck Jonathan, he banned FGM in 2015. So it'll be interesting to know when you did this documentary and when this happened. It still happened.
Yes, I was in Osun State last week, and I saw lots of banners everywhere. Stop genital mutilation, stop female genital, everywhere in all those villages, which shows that it still continues. That is why there are fresh notices everywhere.
Everywhere. Okay.
It's not just people who are not educated, even educated people.
Right. Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Tosin. Sorry, I'm just going to go to you for the medical perspective of this. What is it about FGM that makes people want to do it? Is there any medical advantages, health benefits to this?
Thank you very much. Hi, everyone. Hi, Celia. And thank you, Tosin, for that introduction. I literally was having goosebumps as you were speaking, and thanks for the definition as well, Celia, because I think it explains both to the medical person and to the lay person. I must say in advance that my background is in nursing. I have first and second degrees, but I'm also a public health analyst currently, and I also get involved in health promotions with regards to things like this. I have a 7-year history in accident and emergency, where female reproductive medicine is not necessarily my area. I have been preview to issues like this when people have come into casualty. So I'm quite, I've been able to understand that sort of, and I can also give a psychological perspective to it. So with regards to FGM, there is no known therapeutic or medical reason for anyone to cut the female genitalia. There is no known therapeutic or medical reason why anyone should cut the female genitalia. And without going through graphic into the female genitalia, and for those who are watching, when I say the female genitalia, I'm talking about the woman vagina. Now, because of the way it is shaped and the layers to it, everything was created to fulfill a purpose. None of it is out of order or out of place or should be taken off. Now, when FGM is performed, it's performed on 4 different levels. It's either the clitoris is taken off, or the labia majora or minora, which are the lips to the vagina wall, is taken off, or maybe it's the lower area. So things are taken out of place, and all those things serve a purpose, whether in sexual activity or reproductive activity. They are all purposeful. Now, when someone goes in there and takes off these things, they open up the woman to high levels of risks mentally, risks in terms of their bodies as well, because these things are covering. Somebody once said that the woman's genitalia is one of the organs that's able to perform multiple functions per time. How do you think a woman's genitalia is able to hold something as small as a tampon, yet able to birth something as big as a 6-pound baby? It's because of the way it's been created. So in its relaxed mode, it's able to contract and keep hold of something like a tampon, and in its relaxed or contractive element, it's able to birth a baby. So everything was put in place to actually protect the reproductive organs that are connected to the vagina, which is the outer wall. So when you take parts of either by the first level, of which I don't want to go into the medical terms, the first level, second level, third level, fourth level, what you leave the woman at risk of is incontinence. Because the urethra is also one of the little peepholes. I don't want to go too graphic into the anatomy of the woman's vaginal wall, but basically everything there serves a purpose. So when you go to the clitoris part, what you do is you diminish their sensitivity to sexual activity. When you go to the urethral part, is that you actually either cause injury to the urethra, which is the opening to the bladder wall, which helps the person wee. So you either stop them from weeing properly, or you cause incontinence because they're unable to hold the wee. And also when it comes to pregnancy, for women who are able to get pregnant, and I say again, able to get pregnant, which is a miracle in its first place when you've already shut down all the arenas to do that. When it comes to childbirth, they have a problem. And so doctors have to go, and let me go quickly to the treatment, is that they have to go through surgery to now fix the problems that have been done in the first place. And like Tosin said, let me say it right now, that FGM is not performed by medical practitioners. FGM is particularly driven by cultural and religious practices only. And it is of a misguided belief that it would help a woman either in her marriage or in sexual purity or abstinence. So it is a misguided function, and it's a misguided idea. It is not medical, in any form or shape. So to answer your question, it doesn't benefit anyone. And from the psychological perspective, do you hear that Tosin said, over 40 years ago, I went through it. But seeing it 5 years ago brought probably a flashback of 40 years ago.
Yeah.
And Nigeria is known to be prevalent. It's Nigeria, even though Nigeria is just one of the countries, it is so highly prevalent that we form the highest and the largest amount on the surface of the earth worldwide of FGM.
Right. Thank you, Toyin, for doing that. I mean, that was very insightful. When I was growing up, when I heard about FGM, I was told that it stops the woman's promiscuity, so she's not wanting to have sex at all times. Okay, so then they would say the women who were not circumcised were very promiscuous, and they were like, you know, they want to have sex every time. So Jude, I'm going to come to you before I go to Yori. So I know you've done your research. You've done some research on FGM. So tell us a bit about it. What do you think, health-wise? What do you think socially? Do you think this is something that, I mean, you're a man as well. So do you think this is something that should be acceptable? What do you think?
First of all, I grew up in Edo State. So up until the time I left Edo State to come to London, I never heard anything about FGM. I have sisters. My mother's a woman. I have aunties. I have cousins, a lot of them female cousins. I grew up around a lot of women. And I never heard this thing, maybe due to my ignorance, or they never spoke about it. So you mentioned something about Nigeria being one of the largest places where they practice this. But I'll tell you, even Nigerians don't know it happens there. In Europe, before I became aware of what FGM is, like I said, it's because my sisters never had it done on them. My mom never mentioned it. I don't know, probably it's where we grew up. I don't know whether it was happening in the village or in cities. Having said that, when I came over here, the research that I did wasn't really in-depth. It was just why the Western world was the one pursuing this cause as opposed to the women that this was happening to. So I had to go look into it and see what was happening. So my main issue is illegal in this country. So from that standpoint of view, it is illegal. I'm going to say it is illegal, full stop. If Nigeria has banned it, then it becomes illegal to practice it. There's no medical benefits to it so far. My research didn't bring that out. But what my research found out was we had Western women who actually has never been through this experience at the forefront. They were doing that because of budget purposes. You know, the black woman is stigmatized right from the home anyway. So if the black woman was the poster child for that campaign, FGM wouldn't have gone anywhere. So we needed our counterparts, the white women, to pursue that cause for us. But I thought they took it too far. They should have allowed us just be the drivers of this. Well, you can understand why they did it. Another thing I found out was, I'm going to link it to male circumcision because Celia, you described it as, you defined it as circumcision as well. In some textbooks, they have that. But they've tried to not use that. They actually use gender-based violence now. And it's interesting. I'll come back to what Tosi mentioned. So what I found out was, now, we allow male circumcision. I have 2 boys. The first child, my first boy, it was a big deal for us to start talking about circumcision. Although I was circumcised, and I had no argument against why he shouldn't be circumcised or he should be circumcised, apart from I was circumcised, period. And we grew up in Nigeria where we carry Bibles and Quran, and he accepted it. So I said, what if Bible or the Quran had accepted female circumcision? Would you have allowed it? Because my son too, it was violence. I was there when they did the circumcision on them. It was pure violence. The other guy who came in an ambulance, dressed like he was coming to prepare somebody for mortuary. This is how cruel it is. Imagine that happening to a woman. Well, interesting. Now, we have what we call the labiaplasty. I don't know if you've heard of it.
Yeah.
Now, this is interesting. That's what I found out in my research. Now, labiaplasty is actually illegal in America because American law says it is pure and simple FGM, female genital mutilation. But in England, here in Bond Street, at those plastic surgeons, it is allowed. This is where women from as young as 12-year-old are going to plastic surgeons to say, they don't like the way their vaginal walls look like, the labia minora, the labia majora, and the clitoris. And they're cutting things off. Things that Toyin mentioned that you shouldn't even touch at all. They're doing it here, and it is legal. So my question in my research was, why is one illegal and one is accepted? Is it because money is involved, or is it because it's black women? you know, and you see, that's where my question came about in the research. So that's what I found, that it is accepted in one place, it is not accepted in one. What is happening? Is it because of the name? Do we need to then change the name? But another thing, I was really shocked when Tosin mentioned it was done by a man. My experience, my research actually pointed to it being a matriarch society. I thought it was women who did it in places.
The elderly women in the
elderly
community,
women. The men really didn't get involved. So my research brought that out as I argued. I said, look, it never came to my knowledge until I came to London. So I thought it was a woman thing. Women did it with women. I'm surprised to hear that it was actual men courting. So there you go.
Wow, thank you, Jude. Thank you so much for that. Right, Yuri, I'm going to come to you. So yeah, what do you think about FGM? Do you think there's any good side effects, advantages of this, or is it all just bad?
You know what? There's never a good side to hurting women. Absolutely. Point blank and the period. I grew up in Nigeria, and in as much as I was shielded from FGM, Tosi and I actually grew up. Are from the same community, our community, and we're so enriched in our culture. And it was one of our trips home for Christmas. There was a young lady that I was playing with. I was probably by maybe like 11. And I could notice like their house, we were like, you know, when kids go home for village Christmas time. So everything was so beautiful, innocent. But I noticed that every time, at certain times, she was called in and she was just being prepared for something. I didn't know what she was being prepared for. So before we left to go back to my parents' base in Kwara State, she sort of disappeared. And she was my friend, my village friend. And I didn't see her anymore. So rolling to the next Christmas, I'd seen her. Now she's different. She was adorned in a different sort of attire. And something had changed. And she wasn't playing with us anymore. We were still young kids. So I was like, what happened to her? What changed? Like, we're still age mates. And I can remember my grandmother saying to me that she's not a woman. She's been caught. And I didn't understand what it was. So at that point, I think my mom sort of kind of limit how we traveled home. Maybe she feared something was gonna happen because it's my paternal grandmother.
Yeah.
So I didn't understand what cut meant, but this girl's attitude changed. She wasn't as bubbly as she was. She wasn't playing with us. She was grown. We were just 11. So, like I said, it's violence. It was as if our youth was yanked away from her because I was oblivious to what had happened to her. It was later on in the course of the work that I do that I now come across women that have gone through what my friend growing up had gone through. And you could see the psychological effect that he had on them. You've robbed them of their innocence. You know, they were more guarded because now something has been done to them. So they're like, oh, there's a way. Because that time, I could remember she was being given this huge chicken. They were taking her in. I was wondering, why didn't you give me
compensation?
And they didn't give me chicken. I was the friend. I wasn't being given chicken. And she was being given chicken. Her hair was done. And if you remember they had these bear fruits. Tosi, if you remember this bear fruit back home, she was given a huge portion. I'm wondering what's going on here? But she changed. Wow. So that's my experience of FGM. And being working in this country, you could see when kids are taken away during Christmas, during summer holiday. That sometime now, before you take your child away, especially in certain communities, I think with Nigerians, with Somalians, with certain African countries, they always ask, why are they going home? Why? What? Because when these children come back, you return with another child.
Isn't it more, I mean, you would have thought that if at all they were going to do this, they would have done it when the child was a lot younger, just the way they do with the male circumcision. They do it when the baby is between maybe 0 to 1. But I found that within the course of the research for this, that FGM is done between the ages of 0 and 14. I mean, I'll be very surprised if women that are older than 14 or that even older than 10 are still having this done. Now, I know you wanted to say something. I
think Tosi said something that women at 7 months pregnant are getting this done.
So why is that? What is the correlation between pregnancy and having it done? Didn't they already do it before? What happens there, Tosi?
No. The local government is called Obanliku. That is where you have the resort, the Ogudu cattle resort. I was there. I was not allowed into the community, but that is what they do. It's an annual program. That community only in Nigeria is only pregnant women that are circumcised.
So
only pregnant women.
So pregnant women who weren't circumcised when they were younger?
They were not circumcised as babies.
Right.
Only pregnant women. They wait until the woman is pregnant.
Is there any particular reason? Is there any reason why they wait until she's pregnant to do it? Or?
I think that's their tradition. That's their culture.
And would you say that that is still happening today, even after the ban in 2015?
Yes, because it's a cultural practice.
Wow.
And you know, any woman who dies during the period is considered to be a witch.
Okay. Wow. Okay. So I mean, yeah, this is really interesting. So we've moved from there's no medical reason, and now there's religion and cultural reasons. Yeah. Now, can I just ask? So if, for example, because we know that the tools that is being used when this FGM takes place, they're very crude instruments, okay? They're not sterilized, only got, razor blade. They use the same thing that they used on BC, they use it on Amaka. They use the same instrument for everyone, and it's not sterilized. So what if FGM was done in a more sterile environment where there's a nurse, a doctor, someone from the medical background who can do this properly? Would it still be something that's accepted? Tony, let me hear from you because you're the medical expert in this.
Right, thank you so much for that. And brilliant stories there, Yuri and Tosin. Oh my God, I can only imagine your childhood. I am here, I've got goose pimples just listening to you. And thank you so much also, Jude, for the research actually done. I was listening to you and I heard you say something about male circumcision before I come to your question, because I think I'll be able to relate both. I think it's important and it's pertinent on this platform that we understand the difference between the two so that we do not make comparisons for something we might not be able to finish necessarily. And let me tell you why. Because I remember that Jude said it was violence just watching the boy go through it, but it's literally almost violence watching a woman give birth by forceps. And it doesn't mean that anyone's trying to hurt her. So I think it's important that we understand the reason. So for male circumcision, the reason why I cannot think we can draw a parallel for the two of them is because male circumcision, even though it has its roots in deep religious practices, it is actually done even in the 21st century. It has not been banned, and it is even recommended for 3 reasons. Religious beliefs, as I said, that's where it started. Health benefits and hygiene purposes. That's why there's a difference. Again, religious beliefs, hygiene purposes, and health benefits. I'll throw 3 words at you: phimosis, paraphimosis, and paraphimosis. These are diseases and infections that affect men that they recommend even adult circumcision in men who cannot pull the foreskin backwards, in men who have had the foreskin at the tip of the penis, causing necrosis. It's either we cut your penis off or we take off the foreskin. So I think it's important to understand the anatomy of both is different. The benefits from both is different. One is recommended, one is not. One is violence, one is not, irregardless of how we might perceive how it's happened. That's why many a man cannot be in a labor room, because what that woman is going through is beyond human comprehension. It doesn't mean anyone's trying to hurt her. So if we draw those parallels and understand the difference, then we would know that female genital, that's why it's called a mutilation. It is WHO defines it as an injury. An injury is a cause to harm.
Deliberate as well.
Yes, so that's why I need us to understand that. So if we're drawing the parallels, let's draw it from a point of either we understand what the differences are and how we're drawing the parallels, as opposed to just making a comparison. I just thought it's important to say that before I answer your question, and now I've forgotten your question.
Okay, so my question was, if FGM was done in a more sterilized place, by a doctor or a nurse who have the experience of doing it, they know where to cut and where not, do you think it should still be allowed?
I can see Jude shaking his head, and I think he answered the question for me. Absolutely not. Because again, for the men, if we were drawing a parallel, I gave you 3 reasons. The deep religious reasons where they feel, because I don't know, and I can talk from a spiritual perspective, because all what we do for COVID-19, washing your hands, go and check the book of Exodus. It is actually outlined there. You put people who are leprous in isolation. You put people with COVID in isolation. So if you go to the Bible, a lot of times in the biblical days, I can only speak from the Bible because I'm a Christian. Sorry for apologies to any viewers who might not be Christian. I'm using my own beliefs and values to justify, right, the religious reasons behind things. So if you look at Christian practices today or health practices, a lot of them are well documented in ancient times in biblical history. Do you understand? So that's why the religious belief behind it is appropriate. Now, like Jude said, have you seen anything like that with regards to women's one? No. In any other religious belief, I don't even think it's even documented or well researched for women. So let's put that aside. For the men as well, for hygiene purposes, behind the foreskin of many a man in Lord have mercy, A&E, I have seen all kinds of things. You see, by the time they come in, what is behind the foreskin is more than what's in the room. Amen. Okay, so basically for some men it is recommended because their hygiene is a terrible situation. In fact, it's a condition when they come in. They might be well in other places, but that area is not particularly looked after. And for high health reasons as well, STIs and things. Do you understand? So I'm not saying men without foreskins should go and have their foreskins taken off. You know, because some men know how to look after, pull off the foreskin and look after it. For women, mention one religious, medical, hygiene, or health benefits for it. I don't care if you use a knife or use a surgical apparatus. Fact of the matter is, there is no benefits.
So do you know what I also found whilst I was researching, which I was like, am I reading this right? He also said that FGM was done because for the sexual pleasure, for the heightened sexual pleasure of the man. I mean, I don't know if that's correct. This is the first time I was reading that. Is that true? Like, have you heard that, Jude? Have you?
I think from doing my research, that's why I was talking about the stereotypes. That's why I did the research. I was trying to challenge that. And I don't think it's based on historical facts, but actually in some communities in Africa, they said it was for the man's pleasure. I'm a man.
Wow.
I dated before I married. I never questioned anything. I don't know. I don't know how the woman's body works. So a man wouldn't know how the woman's body works. Why should he have the power to make decisions on what they should do about their body?
Come on.
Yes. So I don't.
Can come in, please?
Okay.
Yes,
please. Tosin, come in, please. Yeah.
Do you know why it is cut in Nigeria? It is cut so that the woman will never enjoy sexual satisfaction.
Amen.
Wow.
So a woman who does not know, who cannot enjoy, will always be there like a log of wood. And that man can go 10 times and she will still be there because she didn't enjoy anything.
Oh.
She is just made to satisfy a man. Quote me anyway. My sisters, they can say they are ashamed to say it and they will say they enjoy their husband. Praise the Lord, hallelujah. The aim is achieved.
So
we don't enjoy sex. So we just stay there and the man can do whatever he wants. Please stand up when you are through, sir.
If I come in quick,
So if a woman who is taught tells you that she enjoys sex, she should come and teach us.
Wow.
So,
thank you, Tosin. Jude, quickly.
So the point you're trying to make, because are you saying if they didn't cut it and the woman came to climax on time, that means she's enjoyed it, so the man will be like, oh, you had climax under 3 minutes? Because I'm trying to see what is the man trying to just stay on top for like forever? Is that it?
Tosin, do you want to answer this?
Yes.
Okay, go on.
The point is, this woman has been conditioned to not enjoy sex.
Mm-hmm.
And my belief is that I am here to satisfy my man. And the man knows that this woman is cut. She is here to satisfy me. That is the way I see it. Many women will say, when you drink this, when you drink that, you will get this, you will enjoy this. I don't know it. And I don't believe it.
Right. Tosin,
Can I
thank
answer,
you.
can I answer that?
Sorry, Toyin, 1 minute. Tosin, thank you for what you've just said. Because as I said to you guys just now, when I was reading this thing, I thought, am I reading it wrong? Or maybe there's a typo somewhere, because I didn't understand that FGM was to satisfy the man. Now, Tosin, you have just literally explain that, because you're right, because when they cut the clitoris, right, which means when there's sexual intercourse, the clitoris is not getting that contact because it's shorter. This is my belief, because it's shorter. So which means the woman is just there.
Yes, it's not there. So
Yeah.
whether you enjoy it or you don't enjoy it, I don't even know what it is to enjoy a man.
So which means the man can stay there longer than, and the woman does not really, right, okay. Yori, you want to say something?
You get to climax, you are satisfied, and you can say, okay. And sometimes you want to try as many times as possible, if by chance or by mistake or by miracle you enjoy it.
And also, just a quick one, Tosin, that also, they also use that to subdue the sexual drive of the woman, because if she's not enjoying it, she's not going to want sex.
I can stay for 3-4 years. I don't care if there is a man or no man. I don't know how the effect. I don't understand. I don't care. I leave my unibasa. I go to anywhere I like. I don't miss a man. And it's not good, because I don't even want a man. Yeah, they are punishing me. They are punishing the man.
Exactly. That's my point. I thought I would want a woman who enjoys sex. Exactly.
You're coming. Yeah.
This is, and I'm happy Tosin is here, because we want a lived experience.
Yeah.
You know, in my course of research, and the term you were talking about, Celia, earlier, on which Tony actually buttressed, is called medicalization of FGM.
Yeah.
The World Health Organization thought, well, let's do a research. If we had nurses and doctors and people in a sane environment, is it still right? The answer is no. But another reason why people, interestingly, women actually clamor for FGM is to put their female children in check.
Wow.
Yes, because we notice in the course of research, when a child turns 11, 12, 13, you know, we hit puberty, the breasts start developing, we're more conscious of our body, and then you still start seeing parents that say, oh, this child is now blossomed, so to say. We need to check her. And by checking her, is having her cut, so that to prevent promiscuity.
Sexual drive low.
So not drive. They're saying we're preventing promiscuity.
Wow.
So, but what you don't understand is that what I don't know, I will then seek. Because by you cutting me, you've not unleashed something. I want to understand why I've been cut. So this child or this young lady might now start exploring, going from one place to another, because they would never, like Tosi said, they would never enjoy sex.
So do you think, Yori, from what you're saying, do you think they might think, okay, John didn't do it well, maybe I should go to Peter, maybe Peter has something, and then from there, so really, even though they're trying to prevent sexual promiscuity, they might be doing the reverse.
If you could remember, I said you've not unleashed something else.
Yeah.
What you're trying to cage in, you've not exposed this person, because, you know, psychologically and how we think, well, it's not happening with this person. Maybe this person is not good. Let me try it. And then you now find out that you can't actually enjoy, and there's no enjoyment. You've actually killed this person.
Yeah. Yeah, Toyin, you want to say something?
Yes, so you know when you asked Tosin about why she thinks it's actually done, and she said specifically in Nigeria, it's done so that it's done mainly from, we live in a patriarchal world generally, and Nigeria is king of that, right? Okay, from an African perspective. And so she said it was from a domineering perspective, where a woman is just meant to serve the man. And absolutely, that's why FGM is primarily cultural, then religious, then social, is there to serve somebody's purpose, and it's definitely not serving the women's purpose. But what I wanted to bring was a medical twist to that as well. Because when they cut you at 15, you generally don't know what they've done except the psychological. And I like the breakdown that Yori had to that something changed about that girl. She might not even realize, and I have to indicate that the sexual drive is not in your vagina, it's in the brain. I think I mentioned it the last time, that your brain is your most active organ in sex. So she doesn't actually know what she hasn't done. Basically is where I'm going with this. Your brain is what develops all those hormones and releases them. Now, what the vagina actually, the role it plays, the reason why I want to buttress what Tosin said, but from a medical perspective, not just because the guy she might fall in love with or whoever marries her might not necessarily want to dominate her, but she still can't enjoy sex. So that's why I want to put a twist, because not everybody who would marry that girl wants to dominate her, right? So on the perspective of the girl, this is what I want to explain. You remember I gave you the graphic representation of the anatomy of of a woman. Now, the clitoris is there. Now, some people think things like clitoris are there like an appendix. Now, we know that medical, I don't know if you heard, when your appendix is taken off, it actually serves no medical purpose, and sometimes grains fall into it and they can take it out. Now, the clitoris, while medical science cannot find out the reason why we have an appendix in the first place, that's a story for another day. The clitoris, on the other hand, has super sensitive endings, and it is very, even though it's not central to sex, it is primary in sexual satisfaction. Okay, so if it has been closed, and I told you there are 4 ways of doing this FGM, and the first is a clitorisectomy, so a removal of the clitoris. So once you've already removed the part that's already receiving the sensitive endings, then her ability to climax has already been reduced. Now let's go to the labia. That's the lips of the vagina. Those are the areas that have sebaceous glands that release lubrication. Now get this. This is the girl number 1 who can hardly feel what you're doing and is unable to get wet with what you're doing. She's going to have vaginismus. She's going to have finding sex so difficult, so painful. You might as well be raping her every night because she's unable to be lubricated. You can see how you're shaking. That's exactly how that girl feels every time there's penetration. Yeah. It is war. It is awful. So it's not just because the guy wants to dominate, which is obviously the cultural perspective behind it, but also the girl is literally, you've taken away everything that would help her engage in something that was created to be enjoyed by both of you. So she's unable to enjoy it.
Thank you.
So I needed to create that graphic so people know what women with FGM actually go through. I thought I'd put that in. Yes.
Thank you. I mean, the fact that it's even done, right? Forget about promiscuity and all that. That's nonsense, because when you look at it, the fact that they're trying to curb the promiscuity also goes to the fact that they don't want her to start sleeping around when she gets married. So the fact that it all goes back to satisfying a man, it really annoys me.
Bad.
Because like, how much more do women have to suffer for the satisfaction of a man? They say it's a man's world, it's a man's this, everything is a man. The woman must cook for the man, the woman must clean for the man. So at some point it becomes, and now to find this out as well, it's really, really annoying. Now I'm just gonna go, Toyin, is there any correlation between FGM and HIV?
Right. So in terms of research for the woman, there is not, again, it has no benefits. It has no correlations with anything medical. So from a female perspective, and I'm going to go back to the word circumcision and go back to what Jude said. From a female perspective, there is no reason to do it. There's no benefit from doing it. And there's nothing you're preventing by doing it. Again, there's no reason to do it. There's nothing you're preventing by doing it. And there's nothing that's going to happen to her by doing it except our ability to get all kinds of infections, from urinary tract infections to sexual infections. And HIV is an infection you will get whether or not you have FGM anyway. Whereas in men, please listen, in men, there's a correlation between the advice for men to get adult circumcision and HIV. I'm not well versed in the research done, but there's a correlation in male circumcision, and why some adult circumcision has been recommended for men. But with women, absolutely nothing like that. We already established there's just no correlation.
So isn't it possible that there might be a correlation because of the equipments that are used, because they're using the same equipment for the women? Is there a possibility that they might?
And that's why I said infections in general. You know, the first thing I said was you leave the woman with incontinence or infections, 2 eyes when you do female circumcision. Look at the Baba that was doing it. Every time she mentioned that Baba, I literally closed my legs on behalf of this girl. God knows what that man's using, right? Then there will be hepatitis A, B, C, D, E in that same room, I tell you right now. So it's not even HIV. I think HIV will be the last of our worries. If that girl is going to get HIV, I can assure you she'll get AIDS at the rate at which those instruments are. So you get anything, as in any form of infection from it, definitely. I'm just saying that the link to that particular infection, HIV, is not necessarily linked as opposed to a generic form of infections. Whereas in male circumcisions, there's been a link as to how it's been used to either advise the male gender about hygiene and health benefits.
Okay. Is there any, would you say there's any psychological effects? Yes, okay.
Don't get me started. I have a list and I don't want to miss it.
Okay, Toyin, before you start, I'm going to go to Tosin first. Tosin, given that this is your lived experience, how does it make you feel psychologically, emotionally? Do you feel you're missing out? I know you mentioned something similar, but do you feel that you're missing out on things? How does it make you feel?
I don't even think about it. You see, my sister, my grandfather had 27 wives. 27. If women enjoy sex, how could one man have been able to satisfy 27 women?
That's interesting, look.
You see, FGM is an instrument of oppression, of suppression, of suppression. They are using it to keep us shut. And each time I think about it, the only thing that comes out of me is hatred. I have only daughters, and I made up my mind even before I got married that nobody on earth will place a knife on the vagina of my daughters. That is one cycle. In short, it makes me hate patriarchy. And that is why I do what I do.
Come on.
My life history, my own experience is why I am doing what I am doing. I will go to any extent to protect girls, any girl whatsoever. And my sister Tony has not mentioned the death of girls from FGM. I have heard stories of many girls who died out of this thing, just to keep us suppressed, just to keep women under, just to be under the control of a fellow human being. Is God that bad? Is God that wicked? That it's only men that we enjoy all these things. It makes me rebellious, sister. It makes me rebellious. I don't think about sex. I don't even want to enjoy it. Let's keep it wherever they want it.
Tosin,
but it did not happen to any girl again in my presence.
Come on.
Tosin, did anybody, when you had your girls, did any family member try to say to you, oh, it's time to circumcise them?
Yes. And I told them that it's against the law. Because even the radio, every time they keep on announcing, they keep on telling people, stop it, stop it. Everybody, even my sister, my mother's child, who is a nurse, a matron, she circumcised her grandchildren. Yes.
Okay.
A female nurse, registered nurse, she's still in practice, 35 years in practice. She satisfied those small girls. I went to Akure, I saw her, and I told her that I was ashamed of her. You were circumcised and you knew what you went through, and now you are circumcising. She circumcised her daughter. She's a pharmacist. And the daughters of this pharmacist were also mutilated.
Doesn't this just show that education maybe doesn't have anything to do with it? It's inbuilt tradition and custom and culture.
The empowerment is different. You can be empowered and not educated. You can be educated and not empowered.
That's right.
There are many women in Ibasa. They can't write their name, but you cannot dare try it with them. They will say, Auntie Tosin, so Auntie Tosin said this. Yeah. And they are not educated. My sister, I'm ready to die for this cause. I have gone through everything they have given to women. Is it violence? Is it beating? Kilo too cool. Education has nothing to do with it.
It doesn't, no. Clearly it doesn't. Yori, you were going to say something.
You know, it kind of pains me because the funny thing, you know, I said it earlier, those driving these are actually women, which is the most annoying and unfortunate situation. We are the ones actually driving. And I say we because I'm a woman. Women are the ones driving FGM. We're the ones that, on the other part, we still have women and men like Jude that fight the cause. Yeah. But women, it's as if we hate each other. I've not been through FGM, but I've been around people that have had it done. And, you know, I don't know, at some point, I don't know if Tosi or Toyi can actually tell us what happened when these women are trying to have children.
Yes. And Yuri, don't you think it's a mentality of it happened to me, so I'm going to make sure it happens to you as well?
It's wickedness.
It is, isn't it? It is wickedness.
It is wickedness. So I'm going to hate you because this has happened to me rather than championing or fighting the cause. We've seen women die, hemorrhaging, bleeding out. on the table of Babalola, as my direct and Tosis called it. So the cut man.
That Baba should be sacked because it's not even.
The Baba can be sacked because it's a cut.
Baba should be sacked because it's not appropriate that Baba is looking at inside all those vaginas. Like seriously.
It's not just Baba. We're just using Baba now. There's Mama Lola as well. There's Mama Lola. So it's the designation given to them. Either a man can do it or a woman can do it, but it's still being done.
Ryan, do you have any light to shed on the question that Yori sort of threw out from there with regards to childbearing, right? Yori, childbearing and FGM. Have you encountered any patients?
Right, I haven't directly, but I think I'm so glad Tosin actually mentioned that is one of the sides. So remember how I was saying infection and I said infection and incontinence. Those were two I's as side effects. And the third one is infertility. And the fourth one is definitely death. And these are different progressive depending on what part was cut. You know, I kept saying there are 4 parts and I don't want to go too anatomical. That's why I didn't actually get to the part of death. So I'm so glad he mentioned that. Yes, because of the brush procedure in which, primitive, I must add, procedure in which it was done, a lot of women actually bleed to death. And she did say, I think Tosin said at the beginning, that when women actually bleed to death like that, they are actually named as, as yes.
Or bandages, they've gone back.
The procedure, she didn't survive. As though we're back to Mary Slessor times where they are clean twins for just existing. You know what I mean? So it's so primitive in its nature and primitive in its practice that it's unfortunate. I'm so triggered this afternoon. I absolutely love this topic because I think it is sad that in the 21st century we still have to be discussing this. So yes, death is one of the side effects, and also childbirth, obviously, because of as I said, because infertility is a side effect, which means that if the woman gets pregnant at all, how is the baby going to come out? So vaginal birth is either going to be the death of that woman, because the thing is that you have to do corrective surgery if it is not so there are 4 levels. It's either clitoridectomy or excision or something called inflammation or something like that, where the labia are removed, the parts are removed, or it's completely sealed. So if she gets pregnant, because you and I know that spermatozoa doesn't need too much space to go up. Amen. So if she does get pregnant by some miracle, right? And coming out, the baby is much larger than the penis penetration, right? So which means the baby might not be able to protrude out. And in primitive places where CS is not an option, cesarean is not an option, then you leave her to actually die on that table, because how's the baby going to come through? The pain also associated with the area is also going to cause a lot of problems. And remember, we mentioned about lubrication to the labial area. It's not just during sex, it's also during childbirth. The area is well lubricated, not just with the gel the doctor or the midwife puts there, but natural lubrication through the contraction. Labor process is in 3 levels. So it allows the passage of the baby as well. So all of this just work against this woman. And so she could bleed to death on there. She could die from the pain, die from the difficulty, even though they might cut her and try to do episiotomies and all of that just to get the baby out. Or if in places where they can't do any of that, she actually dies either during the excision or during childbirth. So yes, or dies from the infection. Whichever way, infection, infertility, incontinence, and death are real. And chronic pain syndrome, chronic pain where they don't live off of pain. The pain is perpetual. But from the time they've done that till she lives the rest of her life, the pain is perpetual. And this could lead to psychological PTSD, depression, anxiety, and self-harming has actually been seen predominant also in those areas where these girls have been, because, Tosin has said it all, predominance, suppression, you just don't feel worth it at all. You want to kill yourself.
Thank you very much, Toyin. Tosin, I'm just going to ask you real quick. When you were having your children, did you have any complication following on from as a result of the FGM, or?
I really don't know if it's as a result of FGM, but I had this episiotomy in 4 different places.
Wow.
Yes, I was caught in 4 different places.
Wow.
As she said it, I closed my legs.
I know. Yeah. Also, Tosin, another thing I want to ask you, Tosin, is, so I want to know, because you've just mentioned your sister. She's educated. She's a nurse, right? And she has 35 years of experience working as a nurse. And then she has a daughter now who is also a pharmacist. So she's educated. And your sister circumcised her daughter, and now she's also now circumcised her grandchildren. Now, do you think there's any superstitious belief behind circumcision for you to think that, for even an educated person such as your sister and your niece, to think that if we do not circumcise these girls, this is what could happen?
It's just promiscuity. She does not want her to be promiscuous. She does not want her to enjoy sex. So she wants her to be content with whatever the husband has to offer. So if you don't enjoy it, you will not demand for it.
So it's nothing like maybe the ancestors or the gods will come and something will happen. It's just because of promiscuity.
No, that is the only reason. Because I asked her, you'll be able to checkmate her. It's what you enjoy that you clamor for.
Wow.
Yes, she doesn't enjoy it and she will never ask for it.
Wow. Jude, being that you're the only man on this panel and you have heard, we're very angry, okay? We're very angry. Yet again,
Jude, we're lucky we're not in the studio.
Okay, because yet again it's about satisfying the man. Like, seriously. So what do you have to say, given all these things that you've heard about how this thing is for the satisfaction of the man? What do you think about this?
Yes. Look, you guys are not even angry enough. I tell you, you're not. You're not. Absolutely, you're not. Like Riori rightly mentioned earlier, you do yourself a great disservice. I've had more than 4 or 5 ladies insulted me today on Instagram, and I thought I was standing up for a lady, and I've got women insulting me, and I was like, I went back to them and said, apologies if I offended you. Go back and read my comments. I didn't mean to. I was promoting healthy kind of a lifestyle, and they just told me off. And this is not just the first instance. It happens all the time. You try to speak, and they tell you don't speak for us. That's some approach they use as a feminist. That's why I don't like labeling anyway. But having said that, I will still hold on to that. You guys are not angry enough. You ask for psychological reasons. Our dear sister here, our beloved sister here, is the only example you need to see. Look, I thank God for my mother. She's dead now. I always say to people, she is the best influence in my life. And she only went to what we call standard 4 those days. So education has got nothing to do on it. I thank the way she brought us up. She never forced religion on us, never forced culture on us, never forced anything on us. She just allowed us be very liberal. And that's how I turned out the way I am. And I'm happy to the core. Because look, we talk about education here. Look, religion's got stronghold on people. Culture's got stronghold on people. Albas and all of that, customs, so-called customs, got stronghold on us. And I tell people, to move away from this, we have to really we have to really take a machete and cut it into 2. Once your culture or customs hold you back as a person, you need to do away with it. I don't care whether he's saying it's from the Bible, it's from one book, the book is centuries old. I don't care. We need to deal with the human in front of us. This being a power thing for man over the woman, in most communities, it is the case, and that needs to be checked. But look at Nigeria, for example, for Christ's sake. Come on. Just look at Nigeria. Where do we start from? Look at the Senate House. Where do we start from? First of all, go back to what I said earlier. Ignorance plays a big part. I didn't know much about this, or I didn't know anything about this until I came to Europe. All the people leading us today in Nigeria, they absolutely don't even know what is going on. Now, I've had friends who died during childbirth. I've got relatives who died during childbirth. Yeah. Now you can see that there's a strong correlation. But actually, no one is, even the doctors, the pharmacists, the nurses, no one is sitting down to do any research to link this. They all say, oh, God gave and God wanted an angel back to sing in heaven. Those things, I don't believe in them. Or, oh, that person is an Ogbanje or is a witch, or that's why they died, or something happened. I had a very close friend. She's so young. They called me and said she died, childbirth. I'm like, my life shattered. So how did that happen? Now you can see all the link. We have a platform. We need to be telling people. Yeah. We need to be telling. I would want my wife to enjoy sex. Because that's how I think it is. I don't want a wife to just sleep there and lie there and don't do anything. Like so I don't know which men we're talking about. I really don't know this type of men we talk about.
Do you have any conversations with your friends around this for them to say, oh no, I prefer a woman that's circumcised? Have you ever had that?
Oh, that exactly. We never discuss about this. I've never heard this in the people I move with. They don't even know about these things, even in London. But I'll tell you the truth, though. I have a 13-year-old daughter. If I decide to go on holiday with her, they will stop me and ask me questions. Not just Africa. They were doing it in Holland. You know that?
Wow.
Somalians have a large community in Holland. So what they were doing, because they were checking them back when they come from Africa, they just go to their cousins in Holland and do it in Holland. Trust me, I've had friends who were traveling with their daughters, and when they came back, they took the daughter into a different room. Did so-and-so take you out? Because sometimes, too, be very careful as parents. It's not with your knowledge. Your cousins, I want to take your daughter out. A grandparent has been telling her, bring that girl, we need to do it for her. And they'll do, yes. We've had stories. I was working in a safeguarding for 2 years. I was part of this FGM unit. That's why I did the research on it. Like I said, what I wasn't happy about was the white people took over the whole discourse. It should have been people like Tosin, people like Toyin, the black women actually saying, this is how we feel. Don't come and whitewash it. Let us face our own battle. Let's fight our own battle. Of course, we know for budgetary reasons, they won't listen to the black person. The white woman will bring the budget in. So I was with these people, and it was gory details we heard. Gory details. I've seen 70-year-old woman who's still suffering the psychological effects from FGM. And I see the communities here, Somali communities, still doing it in this country. And 100 sentences. The sentences are very light, 13 months, or so that is not it's not a deterrent. It's not strong enough to deter them. They really don't care. They still go out and do it.
Yeah, they do.
Can I just come in for 2 seconds, because I might be wrong, and please check me if I'm wrong. My understanding is that some within the Somali community, the mutilation they do is to sew it up.
So what up?
The vagina.
The vagina up. So they leave a small bit where you can pee from. So it's sewed up, like sew up, like needle and thread. Yes. And they leave a small bit for you to pee from. So when the time comes when you're supposed to be married and have a child, is either you go back to be opened up, or women who then decide to try and have kids through that place bleed to death. So wait. Let me go back. So the vagina is sewn up, like needle and thread.
At what age?
Some are done early, and sometimes they take them out of school. Okay. Like maybe year 2, year 3, and it happens during the summer period so they can heal. And they sew them up and just leave a little spots. Toyin can correct me if I'm wrong. Where they're supposed to, and Jude as well. You're wearing the same body.
I think you're correct.
Yes, where they can pee from.
Yeah.
So you can imagine, at 25, you are pregnant, want to have your child now, and then they need the stress that goes to. I didn't even go through labor. I had C-section. My threshold for pain is 0. So you can imagine, I'm serious. And you know, when I got pregnant, my mom had 4 C-sections. I said, sign me up for C-section. That's a topic for another day. So you can imagine they cut you open. That place is painful. Silly. I begin to imagine.
How did she even have the sex? If they hadn't already cut her open before she got pregnant, how did she have sexual intercourse?
Do you not see what the problem is? Having sex through that place. Do you see how painful?
So wait, she had sex through the little hole. And obviously, by the time she grows up to the stage of even having sex, the sewing would have all degenerated and everything would not be like skin.
So then I had to do. It's ridiculous out there. Jude, because Jude, you work in that team, so you would have heard things.
Yes. We had so many cases, and from personal experience, friends who have dated Somalians, the Somalians actually told them this is what they do to us, but guess how they get around it? That's why anal is popular amongst that community. Yes, my friends told me that this is what we do with our girlfriends, anal sex all through, because the front is sealed. That, and true, that is manpower. That's patriarchal against the woman, because they're saying our daughters need to not have sex or not to be promiscuous. So they don't want to go for the full FGM. They do that.
Yes. And you know, Yuri, just going back to what you said, because you said that they do it during the summer so that they can heal before they have to go back to school. And you can imagine, I've just seen on The Guardian that during this coronavirus period, right, there is a rise of FGM in the Somalian community. I mean, I don't know if it's happening in the African communities, but in in other African communities, but in the Somalian community, there's a huge rise of FGM since the lockdown. Wow. And even though it is banned in the UK,
the deterrent is not strong.
Get around it.
deterrent is not strong enough. So
It's
that's
not strong enough.
yeah, they'll risk going 13 months, do that for the family member. They take them to Holland, they do it. They just get on the train. So the deterrent is not there. Because you know why? You know why it's not there? Imagine if somebody like Tosin was the one leading the fight in this country. She will be asking for long-term sentences.
Yes.
But the people at the forefront, they're white women who don't know this experience, who do it for fun. So they really they can't clamor for more than 13 months. I tell you about labiaplasty. I told you must know about that. This is plastic where they call it designer vaginas.
Yeah, so design the vagina.
That's what they call it. They go take whatever they want to take to make it look this way, look that way. And actually, it's causing problem now because doctors are having higher number of girls coming back to redo these things, and they're having difficulties having children. So it's all linked. It's all the FGM.
Let me just throw a fact in. Do you know this FGM affects about 200 million girls and women globally? So that is a lot.
That's the only one they know on record.
You know what? I was just going to say that.
Yeah.
These are the ones that are documented.
Yeah. And there's a possibility that as we're speaking, girls are going through FGM.
Not a possibility. Celia, as we are speaking, right now, talking about this, there's one that is being circumcised, there's one that is being sewn up, and there's one
that's sweet. Oh my God.
And there's one that's being reopened. Yes.
My sister.
Every time Yori says stone up, I literally sit up.
I know. Tosin, you want to say something? Please do.
Yes, sister, please. Because of this, your platform, I want you to help women too. In northern Nigeria, this sewn up is now the in thing. For girls to sew up for alhajis, please. Also, in southern part of Nigeria, breast ironing.
Yes.
Ironing the breast of girls is now very common.
Do you know what, Tosin?
I just want you to use your platform to help women too.
Do you know what, Tosin? I've heard about that breast ironing before. I think what we're going to do, because that's a very interesting topic. I think we're going to trash that on its own, and we'll bring you back if you're happy to come back on that. Yeah, we will trash that on its own, and we will bring you back for that, because this sewing, like seriously, it's okay. The visual that's going through my head.
In northern Nigeria, sewing is happening. Sewing up is happening in northern Nigeria as we speak. Now, ladies, it's their choice. Doing it for rich men. They sew up for rich men.
So when you say ladies, Tosin, are you saying ladies like, grown adults?
Yes, out of choice.
Okay.
It's happening in northern Nigeria predominantly.
Are these their wives or their side chicks, or what is it?
Women, independent women.
Independent
Just
women.
to please men.
Wow.
The thing about
before a woman can say we are doing this is because they ask for it. No demand, no supply. That is patriarchy for you.
Wow.
I think the thing is that the way they do vaginoplasty.
Yeah.
So that's what's happening in the northern part of Nigeria. And what tends to happen is that the tighter it is for a man to go in, the better they enjoy the sex. So
But
that's
is it not painful?
Oh, yes. Because
that is what the body of a woman is meant to be. Our body is their pleasure. Our body is for their pleasure.
Do you know what?
No, it's not for me, because I can get my own pleasure. Seriously.
I said it earlier that women, we are our own enemies.
Yes.
And we carry every money here and go to Harley Street and go and have a vaginoplasty.
That's the place.
How am I different from the girls that are being sewn up? Because at the end of the day, the reason you're having your vaginas or the walls of your vaginas tightened is what? To please Jude.
Yeah. And his colleagues. Tosin, before we round up, I just want to ask you one more question. So, how does your husband feel about, number one, knowing that you've been circumcised, and obviously he knows that perhaps you do not enjoy sexual intercourse, and also you saying, no, our daughters are not going to be circumcised? Did he argue with you with regards to that? So what does he say about those?
My sister, I am a rebel. I'm a very rebellious woman.
I have heard. I can see.
I think he knows. We don't discuss issues like this.
Good.
I'm a bad woman. I'm not the typical Nigerian Yoruba woman.
She's not a typical Yoruba Nigerian woman, I tell you.
Wow. Okay, so I'm sure he just knew that we're not even. This is not up for discussion, so that's good.
He
So
has
that's
left me. He has left me for my feminism.
yeah. He probably just thinks, you know what, I'm going to pick my battles because I'm not going to win this one. Okay, I mean, before we round up, does anybody have anything else to add before we?
I was gonna say.
Oh, sorry.
It's
Jude,
fine.
Jude, go on. Then Toyin.
Yes, I represent the patriarchal system. I've benefited from it somehow, maybe in Nigeria, but I don't know how I've benefited from it though. I'm walking on my two legs. I have something between my legs. I don't know. Maybe that's the only benefit I've had from it. But like Tosin rightly said, though, it's a platform that we must use, and we must emphasize that it is not beneficial in any sense. It is rape. It is rape of innocence. It is violence against the woman or the girl child. It's got no benefits, whether cultural, religious, or health-wise, nothing. So we shouldn't be encouraging it. And Nigerian men should stand up too they need to protect their own daughters. You need to open your eyes and see people around you. Like I said, I've heard people go home and their cousin came and said, "Oh, can we take your daughter out?" Yes, my cousins, it's my sisters or my brother's daughter coming to take my own daughter out, and they went and did it. This is done mostly by women on women, so the men are really not involved in some cases. But having said that, though, we need to be really aware of our surroundings.
Exactly.
And I will tell people, and I know family members will hear this. We don't do it in our family, but if anyone should try to my daughter, boy, you're dead.
Okay, well, you're dead. Don't come near Jude's daughters because no, you'll be dead. So, Toyin, before we round up, do you want to say something?
Yes, no, I just wanted to say, as I kept saying that there are 4 levels of it. I mentioned clitoridectomy and I mentioned excision. And excision is the removal of the labia. So you remove the sensitive part and you remove the lubricating part. I just wanted to emphasize the part Yuri was talking about, which is the infibulation. And I said that was the part. So I'm glad she mentioned that was the 3rd part, which you either seal the vagina by burning it or by sewing it. By burning it. Yes, by burning or by sewing. What they really do is that they reposition the labia, the walls, and reposition to close up, leaving only space for the one of the little holes, which is the urethra, which is the other part she tried to describe. So, I said I'd only leave it in doses. But seeing as everyone is mentioning, I'm just giving you the names of what they are. They are actually in existence. And yes, that is how it's done. And for people with infibulation, as I said earlier, I must have hinted that one of them is corrected through surgery. That's the one. So it's not the clitoridectomy and it's not the excision. It is actually the infibulation that must be done by surgery to open up the labial area. And so you've said it already that women who are not open to a place where they can have surgery before childbirth for things like that or whatever, then bleed to death and various things. The other thing I wanted to mention, though, was I know Jude mentioned about penalties for the legalities of it in the UK. From what I gather, it's up to 14 years imprisonment for those who do it and those who fail to protect the children. So I'm shocked that I'm even hearing about 13 months. It's 14 years. And it is 7 years for like the woman who didn't protect the child and for the men who did it about 14 years. So this is all very strange to me. So I think, like you said, there should be greater social awareness to protect these children because they are all underage. It's usually underage for this to happen. Yeah. And the 3rd thing I'm going to say is that for those who are still practicing it, it's a lot has been said about promiscuity on this platform. Please, need I mention that food and sex are a psychological urge, which means you don't have to like food to want to eat. Neither do you have to like sex to want to have it. It is a drive. It's a God-given drive and a God-given urge. So the psychological perspective is that you would want it. At a certain age, your hormones set in, norepinephrine, adrenaline, all these things come into play, serotonin. You don't have to even feel like you have a vagina to know you want to have sex. What would happen is that the child just wouldn't enjoy it, not that she wouldn't want it. So that's why it's to correct. It is a primitive notion for an educated person to take sealing up the area will stop a girl from wanting The want is in the brain, the having it is in the vagina, and it's important to know the difference. And I like the fact that Yuri said that just because you do it does not mean it's going to stop the girl from wanting it. In fact, you just unleashed the opposite. And I thought
Toyin, don't you think that even though, you know, the want is in the brain, but when your brain knows that, okay, I want it, but when I do it, I don't get any satisfaction from it, do you not think that suppresses the brain wanting it?
Definitely, it has its psychological impacts in you wanting to have more. But how many people have said, I don't like food and stop eating? They would still eat. It's just an urge. It is it's something. So an urge is something that wants satisfying. Do you understand? Now you've got to have dignity in you. It's not every girl that has had it that goes about being promiscuous. Just the same way you and I wouldn't eat from a gutter just because we're hungry. So there's obviously self-control, background, you know, training, exposure, education that build the person that you are, and really value and belief system, I must have said on there, that stops you. Even people who don't have anything to do with FGM are promiscuous. While some people who have FGM do not even necessarily want to know much about promiscuity. Do you get what I'm trying to say?
Yeah.
So I don't think they are not mutually exclusive is where I'm going. Do you understand? Yeah, you could be one without the other.
Okay.
I know, Celia, you're about to round up, but can I just say something? It's really annoying that all this is just to limit a woman. While a young boy will turn 11, 12, 15, 18, you'll be hamping them up like, oh boy, have you been out? Have you done this? Why do we feel the need to actually cage or rein a woman in? Not I'm advocating for you to just let your child let loose. But I'm saying, why is there's a rule for a girl child and there's no rule for, there should be, look, we want to raise a well-balanced child.
That's right.
Sex does not define this child. Taking away the vagina does not define this child. So really and truly, this silly attitude, this silly behavior, this silly culture needs to be abolished.
It does. It does.
I think before you go, you're right, Yuri. It starts from little things. This is the way I do my thing. Anyone can go against it. If I hear my wife saying to my daughter, sit properly, cross your legs properly, I say to my boy, you sit properly too. It's one for everyone. That's how I was brought up. You know, if I see my daughter and my wife is saying, Renate, go get this from the kitchen. So why are you not asking Daniel to do it? Or Renate, wash the dishes. I challenge immediately. No, Daniel, go wash the dishes. Daniel said, I don't know how to wash dishes. I said, go stand next to your sister and learn. Because I don't want my daughter to know, to understand, or to ever come to the knowledge that the kitchen is her place. Never. Or she's meant for domestic. She's not. That's not how we're brought up. We're brought up in this way that you oldest, you do the house chores. As my sisters came of age, they did the same with us. My brothers came of age, they did the same. It wasn't like the woman had to sweep white dude pounds the yam. It wasn't like that. So this is how I do my children. And if I say to my daughter, don't wear that, then my boy should not be wearing it. Anything is, whatever is good for her is good for the boys. So that's how
and vice versa. Thanks.
Thank you, Jude.
Thanks for saying that, Jude. Tosin, before we go, do you have anything to add with regards to your with your organization? Do you want to just say a bit more about what you guys do before we close up?
Oh, thank you. We work with trash because I was treated like trash. And just to change the way I think about myself, I began to use trash to create beautiful things. That something good can still come out of me. And I show this by using trash to create artworks and many beautiful things. And I want everybody to know that that little girl you are trying to suppress, she's a treasure to the earth. God created everybody for a purpose. None is greater than the other. Please protect every girl child. Protect everyone. We are treasures.
Thank you. Thank you, Tosin. Tosin, it'll be interesting to have some of your artwork of what you guys have created, and we can put them on for our viewers to see. Because when you said we make things out of trash, and I'm thinking we're called trash shit, okay? But
no,
yeah,
exactly. It tells you we bring trash out of trash it.
So that's very relative, and I like that, because for people who do not know, she means trash, like dirt. That's what she's saying. That's what she means. Okay, so yeah, thank you so much, Tosin, for coming on the show and talking about your experience. And I think what really, from what you said, what really stood out for me is that passion that you have now, that you don't even want to hear about FGM for any female child, whether it's your child or any child. You're ready to give your all to make sure that doesn't happen. And sometimes when people say things, because you've lived that experience and because you've seen firsthand what could happen and what effect that has had on your life, when you talk about it, people might think you're being aggressive, but you're only speaking from passion because you've experienced it and you've seen it happen. So thank you very much for bringing that perspective in. And again, Toyin, thank you so much for bringing the medical side of things as usual. Okay, we've all gone very graphic today. I'm telling you, especially Yori, when you started talking about the sewing, I don't know if you guys saw me doing my hand like I'm like, okay, so how big is the hole, like this? Honestly, the graphics, I don't know where you, anyway, thank you, Toyin, for talking about that. That is, that's another very interesting thing. And Jude, it's great that you were here because, again, you were able to talk from your experience of doing the research on this and bringing some perspective into this as well. And it's I wish most men can listen. All men can listen. And with the way you raise your children, yes, if the daughter's going to do it, the son should also learn to do it. Because tomorrow, when your son grows, he's going to put that on his own children and say, no, when I was growing up, this is how my father taught me, okay? The girl's place is not in the kitchen. The man's space is also in the kitchen. Everybody, if you're hungry, if you can eat, you should go to the kitchen and try to cook for yourself. So yeah, that's very great. Thank you very much. And as usual, Yuri, you'll be bringing it all the time, every time. And
thank you, my love.
It's a pleasure to have you on this show. Thank you, guys. We're going to end it here because, I'm just thinking about the people that are being circumcised, FGM, they're going for FGM right now. And especially because it's the lockdown, a lot of people are suffering this, okay? And it's such a shame because by the time everything goes back to normal, because these things are usually picked up in schools, isn't it? Okay, so unfortunately, because we've been on lockdown for months, by the time we go back to school, the girls are probably not even going to think about it anymore, which is a shame. But anyway, thank you so much. When this video premieres, we're going to be there at 9:30 a.m. on our YouTube channel. And everyone on this topic will be online on Saturday mornings. So when this video premieres, please do come. If you want to ask Tosin any question, please do come. So on that note, we're going to end it here. Thank you so much, guys, for coming. It's a pleasure to have you on the show. And for those of you who haven't subscribed, well, I'm not even going to say anything. You're missing out. Okay, so thank you so much and have a good week. Bye-bye.